I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakota Board of Education to order. Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Mr. Lovell?
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Sure. Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Sorry.
You're good.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Yes. We're looking forward to the school year that's starting very shortly. We only have 3 days left in our countdown.
Wow.
So with that, I will move it.
Except Mr. Vogelman's countdown is 2 days, and the district countdown is 3 days, so I'm confused.
Oh.
Kids come Thursday. So, well, it's already today, and then he's thinking
So his says-
Tuesday,
Just ahead.
Wednesday, and then go on
But
Thursday.
he said today, Tuesday, 2 days. Just saying, it was Derek Jeter today, that's how I know.
Yes, this is true.
All right.
I got nothing.
All right. With that, we'll move to the superintendent's comments.
Geez. Thank you. Just want to give an update to the board on the brand new school year. All of our teaching positions have been filled. We're still watching some high numbers in certain areas and certain grades, so there could be some additions there. We have a couple classified positions that we're still filling. We welcomed 80 new teachers to our school district last week. It was a great turnout and a lot of enthusiasm. Happy to see that. Pulled the numbers this morning for enrollment purposes, and 2 days before or 3 days before the school year started, our numbers are up as a district, up 328 from 2 or 3 days before the school year started last year. Of that 328, 188 of those are kindergarten. So I think the all-day, everyday kindergarten certainly helped with that. And every single, in grade levels K through 10, our numbers are higher, a little bit lower in the junior and senior class. So overall, that's our trajectory. Our schools are ready. I can't tell you how impressed I've been in terms of the community getting ready for the school year. I'm sure all of you heard about Hopewell and things that were going on there. I know many of you helped, and many of our teachers and classified staff and administrators were helping out, pitching in, getting Hopewell ready, but not just Hopewell, but all the schools had volunteers and put the net out, and all the PTOs and PTAs have been helping. And it's just been a tremendous show of support from our community to get our schools ready. And so a few of us were at Hopewell this morning just checking things out, and what a difference a few days make. So we are excited about that. I do want to mention too, as you all know, we've been going down the path for all-day, everyday kindergarten, and our numbers are up, so we're excited about that. We also have the one-to-one launch at our junior schools, and so a lot of the PD being displayed today at Hopewell Junior School. And then if you look behind the magic screen we have here, you can see some of the innovation taking place in this building and all of our junior schools. So we're excited about that. Lodi has been meeting and getting things ready for the school year, and a lot of plans in place for the inclusion aspect of that group, and so they're rolling things out to teachers starting tomorrow. Trying to think if there's anything else. Safety is always one, and as the board knows, we are ramping that up in terms of the visitor system. When you come to a building, you will have to scan your driver's license for the first time. After that, the system essentially learns you and knows who you are, so it's a little bit easier. But that first time coming in, it'll take about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And so we're getting used to it, but I feel really good about where it's at. Also with the volunteer system, it'll also help track our volunteers. If you had a background check last year, we're going to use that again for this year. So the volunteers will just be anybody that hasn't volunteered yet. And the cost for our community will be a lot cheaper too. It was $55, now it'll be $15. And we just have a lot of things in place. I saw at a couple of the buildings today, our SROs were in the building going through ALICE training and drills and new procedures and talking about one new SRO at every campus. And so it was good to see that out when I was out and about today. And then we have our kickoff tomorrow morning for our almost 2,000 staff members, and then we welcome the kids back on Thursday. Mr. Vogelman, there was some discussion up here about whether it's 2 days or 3 days, but we still aren't sure.
I think it's 2, but the district countdown is 1 off of Rob's. I said I knew today because I know it's Derek Jeter today.
How many days are left? They're counting how many days till school starts.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
I just
If I'm a student, I like the districts better.
Yes, true. Got it.
Any questions about anything?
How many half-day kindergarten buildings? Do we have half-day in all buildings?
We don't have half-day in all buildings. We have half-day in 5 of our buildings. So the numbers were not high enough in the other ones, so
Do we know
We gave them
approximately
options.
how many half-day, Keith?
I believe there's just
Period?
one half-period class at each one of the buildings, so 5 half-day classes
Okay.
in the district.
Okay, that's what I was curious if there was. Okay.
And I think that number will go down
I think so
every
too,
year.
every year.
So, good question. Anybody else? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Oh,
How are you changing things up the first couple days of school this year?
so the first 2 days, and we talked about this as a staff, but the first 2 days we want to work on building culture and building relationships with our kids and our staff. And so a lot of the buildings already have those plans in place in terms of what it looks like for the first 2 days. I think it'll be different building the building, and that's okay. But we put that word out there that we really want to spend time at the front end and not have as much. We'll still have touch-in points throughout the school year, but really want to build the relationship piece up between our teachers and staff and our kids the first couple days. And I know the buildings have been putting that out there, and I see a lot of plans in place. So that was pretty much I don't say it was a directive, but we put that out there as a team about building those relationships with our kids now and setting things up. So
So no academics on the first 2 days?
I can't say there won't be some here and there, but that's not the intent. The intent is, I mean, some of the procedures you might want to put on, especially day 2.
Right.
But for the most part, we're not focusing on the academics right away. We're going to focus on the relationship piece.
Cool.
And you talked about PD, which for some people who aren't as familiar with academic alphabet soup, that's professional development.
Yep,
So-
sorry. Thank you.
It's okay. So any other thoughts?
We're ready to go.
Treasurer's comments?
Well, tonight I wanted to talk to you about our healthcare choices that we have coming out of we worked with our consultant, Haran, and went out for market bids for healthcare and dental insurance plans. Those, we're with Anthem. We've been with Anthem since 2014, and the way that works is we go out for bid in the summer, and then we decide on what our healthcare insurance company is going to be and dental insurance company is going to be effective January 1. So we're making the decision now for the insurance that will take effect January 1. And then we'll have open enrollment first 2 weeks of November. But based on the proposals that we received proposals for fully insured, which is what we've been for a number of years, as well as self-insured plans. At this time, I would not recommend going to self-insurance because the one thing with self-insurance is you need to set up a reserve, which is they all recommend 2 months worth of claims, which would be approximately $3 million. If we'd want to head towards self-insurance, my recommendation is to plan that out and to start funding a self-insurance fund so that when you make that decision, you don't have to bite all of that off at one time. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not recommending going to a self-insurance plan. The other one also is the fully insured plan options and the proposals that we receive back financially are just so attractive. It's too hard to turn those down. So we received back the quotes. We interviewed 3 finalists, which were UHC, United Healthcare, MMO, Medical Mutual of Ohio, and Anthem, which is our current provider. We narrowed it down to the top 2, which was Anthem and MMO. And at this time, I'm recommending that we move to Medical Mutual of Ohio, and here is why. Anthem proposed for 2 years, effective January 2019, to reduce our premiums by 5%. And then in January of 2020, it would remain at that premium with 0% increase in premiums. MMO, I'll come back to Anthem. Medical Mutual proposed a 1% reduction in premiums effective January 1, 2019, and it would remain there all the way through December 31st, 2020. So for 2 years, it would remain at the 1%. Then they came in for a 3rd year and said, okay, we'll keep it flat 1 more year. So we've got a 3-year deal proposal from Medical Mutual. Also, what they have proposed is at the end of those 3 years, if our claims loss ratio looks like it has, and our trend has been right around 90%, excuse me, if we remain healthy and our claims loss looks the way it has been, they will give us back. It's a contingent premium arrangement, meaning we could get a refund up to 5% of the premium that we have paid to them over the 3 years, which would basically equate to what you would need to fund the self-insurance reserve. So it's a very attractive deal. We went back to Anthem. Their 3rd year, they gave us a premium cap at 14.9%. So, you know, it was, when you take the 2 and you compare them, MMO is the one that I'm recommending. We know it's a change, but they're going to match our plan. We've also looked at the disruption. In most cases, the changes with MMO are better. So we know it's a change. We're putting a team in place for this to manage the whole transition. But I'm just very happy to share this news with you. I think it's great news for the district, for the employees. So that is on the agenda. That is part of my recommendation, but I wanted to kind of go over that tonight just to kind of step you through what happened and why I'm recommending a change. So that's it. Questions?
I don't have any questions. I mean, it's great news, and thank you to your team for pursuing the conversation and the work that you've done behind the scenes with all the different groups to make it happen. So thank you.
Ellie?
Well, most Anthem, are the doctors the same? People get upset if they have to change their doctor.
Yes.
Most of them.
Yes,
Very
and
small
what MMO has guaranteed us is that if there is a doctor that is not part of their network, to contact them, and they will work with the physicians to try to get them in. But no, when we looked at that, it's very, very comparable.
Oh, good. Nice
With
job.
that disruption report, it said over 98% of the doctors were going to be covered. So that
Yeah.
is
That's great.
from a consumer satisfaction standpoint.
Right, that's
So
good.
with my background being in healthcare, I think, again, the way you've approached this is very smart. You don't want to transfer too often because then carriers don't take your bid
Correct.
seriously, but you want to do it often enough that they also know that you are willing to move if you need to, and that you're not just going to stay because you're not willing to have a small bit of disruption.
Right.
So I think the timing is smart. I think the way you're approaching this, I think that third-year rate guarantee, to have a third-year rate guarantee is very unusual within this industry, and it can be cyclical in your claims trends. So to be able to get that and lock that in is worth extending that rate guarantee to make sure that we're extending that savings and not just jumping at the short-term solution, but looking at that long-term solution from a financial stability standpoint makes a lot of sense with
Yeah.
the potential to be able to self-fund in the long term. I think those are all very smart decisions and make a lot of sense. So.
And we did predict, I went back and looked at the 5-year forecast to kind of compare what did we predict in the forecast compared to, what this looks like. Overall, our health care is about $18 million, just to kind of put it into perspective. That's employee share and employer share, and it's an 85-15 split. So the increase in healthcare cost, insurance cost, in the 5-year forecast was predicted to be about $1 million a year. So this is additional funds that we will not be spending on healthcare. What I would like for us to think about is this isn't a for sure thing, this contingent premium paying us back. So what I would like for us to look at is some of that $1 million that we won't be spending, still take some of that and put it into a reserve fund so that we're ready whenever the time comes, whether this comes through or not. So we'll talk more about that. But
Yeah. Do you feel like that premium number that the healthy number that they have is a doable number, or do they put that so high that you couldn't possibly?
no, I mean, as long as it's under 100%, if they're making money, they're going to share some of that back with us. So it's very out of the box thinking on their part. So yeah.
This is our first opportunity for public comment regarding anything that's currently on the agenda this evening. If anyone would like to approach the mic, they may do so at this time. Seeing no one, we'll go to board reports and the board policy committee. I believe Rob is going to have the pleasure of presenting this to us this evening. His favorite thing to do, I'm certain, just what he wanted to do
I think
with
his
2
favorite-
or 3 days
worst.
left.
His favorite thing to do is finding Yankees that have countdown numbers.
I'm just going to talk really loud. Well, thank you, Mr. Miller. Yes, we have a plethora of policies to put in front of you for first read. Basically, an accumulation of summer. And when you review some policies and you figure out that they are tied to other policies and you start realizing 1 or 2 words missing here or there, that's what a majority of the policies in front of you today. Just real quick, policy 1530, we just realized we don't have the title of director listed as an evaluation piece, and we do have directors, and so we have not caught that before now, and so it's just the 1530 is just the addition of the word director. 1531, from my understanding, comes from a conversation the board had about mileage and administrators, and 1531 is a recommendation that ties into the administrator pay ranges on guideline 1534, and I believe Ms. Logan may have more to share about that as well. Talks about a stipend versus a submission of mileage. 1532 is another administrator policy in which we had listed tuition reimbursement. We have not done tuition reimbursement for over 10 years in the district, so it's probably time to get that out of policy. 4422 and 4423 deal with vacation days with our support staff and just making sure that we have accurate language due to the new contract language that was agreed upon earlier this year with our LSSA. 5430 is to ensure that we are keeping true and accurate records of students from other districts. One thing that Lakota does is if we have a student that attains an A in a college prep class, an A+ in a college prep class, the GPA is listed for Lakota as a 4.5. It's one of the things we do a little different than some other districts, but what we found is some families coming from other districts have 4.0 are then asking us to go and change their child's transcript from another school to reflect our GPA of a 4.5 for A+. And we tell them we cannot alter records from another school. And so this is just insurance language that we are maintaining true and accurate records when people do transfer to us, that we will not go back and change a transcript at their request. We wouldn't flip it around the other way if they came to us. And so that would be, to use the term, that would be below the line to change it, to lower it. So we're not going to change it and raise it just because we have that in place here. 5830 ties along with 6605. These two policies have actually been on hold since the fall update with Neola. They deal with handling fundraising. Ms. Logan has had us hold on that as she's done some review, and just recently the Auditor of State came out with his opinion about fundraising and crowdfunding for schools as well. And so now that he has kind of released that, and under the guidance of Ms. Logan, we held on that, and we've made the appropriate changes based on that guidance from the Auditor of State and from the experts that Mrs. Logan looks to guide her on those decisions as well. So those are the reads that are in front of you for first read. If you have any questions on those, or Ms. Logan, if you wanted to add on the stipend piece, I know that was a topic of concern.
Mm-hmm. So on the stipend piece, what we've been doing in my department is gathering information based on the administrator type and classification, the amount of mileage that people have been turning in. So those dollar amounts that are recommended in that policy are averages of what we've seen within those different, I think there were 4 different categories that we placed administrators in. So we've just tried to average what we've been seeing, what the trend has been over the past several years. I will tell you though, it's been difficult because it's not consistent with people turning things in. So we've tried to do the best we can. So it is kind of a cumbersome process, I'm just going to say. You know, you've got to fill out the form, then you got to send it, you got to send it through all the different approval process, and then we've got to cut the check. I mean, there's a lot of soft costs that are involved in tracking mileage within the district of administrators. So this would be one way, based on the trends, to just go ahead and do that as a stipend instead of enduring all of the soft costs that are involved in it. So that's our recommendation.
Did you want to talk as well about 6550?
That's the crowdfunding one, correct?
No, the travel payment and reimbursement.
That's
Is
that's a guideline.
Oh, that's a
But
guideline.
that is one that I was going to mention once
Great.
we were done with policy, is that guideline was one that comes from Mrs. Logan as dealing with travel reimbursements and receipts, and the fun task of making sure you don't pay tax and you use the right form, and you have the receipts and you don't go over certain amounts. And this is identical to what Butler Tech is doing. And so we tried to align our current guideline there from 6550. It's not a new one. It's just been altered a little bit to try and match Butler Tech, to try and attempt with better alignment and less time and energy to track down receipts and find missing receipts and calling places and asking them to reissue a receipt. So that is a guideline that usually is not board approved, but we felt it was one of those that needed mention.
Correct. It would allow a per diem, and right now we have an allowance for meals a day, but that has to be accompanied by receipts, and again, it's a big process. And I have worked in districts before where we have a per diem, and here's the amount that you get for meals. And I'm recommending that we do something like that. Butler Tech does have something in place like this. I've talked to them. It works very well. I know Linda is familiar with that process as well, and we could talk to her about how she feels about it. But I know Butler Tech, on the administrative standpoint, it's working very well.
It's cleaner and smoother both
Yeah, it's
It
just cleaner, it
is-
makes everybody
It's
responsible.
so clean,
That's how we used
and
to travel when I was a buyer at a department store.
yeah,
Damn.
You're saying net, when you total the cost, you anticipate it to be net neutral from a cost perspective when you, in aggregate.
yes. Also, the Auditor of State has put out lots of different guidelines as far as credit card management, and there's been some legislative changes even of late regarding credit card practices. So this would also help us make sure that we are aligning ourselves with all of that too. So, and like Rob said, guidelines are not approved by the board, but we felt like this one was such a change that we wanted to bring it up to the board to make sure that you don't have problems with this. So,
And
and it's a first read.
yeah, and a couple other guidelines that we look to make changes to as well, that I just wanted you to be aware of, is 511301. This is the inter-district. This is alternative school of choice forms. We don't have matching priorities with open enrollment and alternative school of choice. Alternative school of choice form was basically first come, first serve. And so if you'd been in that building for 3 years, but someone slid their paper in before you, they got the seat over you if it was tight. So I just aligned both of those guidelines to say priority number 1 is if you are a staff member's child. Priority number 2 is if you are returning. Priority number 3 is if you're a sibling of a student already in the building. And then priority 4 is if it's your first time filling out an application for alternative school. I just feel it helps us have better alignment in both sides of the intra-district and inter-district. 5463, this deals with transcripts again. This is a little different. You'd be surprised at the number of transcripts we get from kids from foreign countries that is a 10th grader that says math. And then we're supposed to figure out what that means for the transcript and for class placement. And it just cleans up the language a little bit, gives us a little more flexibility on how to help those students get placed appropriately. So we made some guideline language change there as well. And then a couple of what we anticipate for fall update, just so you're aware. Jenny mentioned one, House Bill 312, which the governor signed about 2 weeks ago. That is the use of debit and credit cards for school use. That's going to require some policy changes, and I expect Neola will have that, as well as House Bill 318. That is dealing with agreements with SROs and having an MOU agreement with your local law enforcement. We currently have a contract, and I'm currently working with legal to say, does that contract count as an MOU? And it basically spells out the role of the SRO. They basically want to ensure that the lines are clean between administrative disciplinary action and an SRO's work. We don't want to blur those lines. So we'll get some guidance on that. Senate Bill 216 he also signed that deals with OTES and CCP rules as well. So we'll see what that means coming down the pike for our policy also. And so that's what we have going on policy. A couple of Lakota research we're still doing. One, we're looking at a couple of safety things based off of a meeting we had with Homeland Security. Some tough things to put in policy. For example, if we have a train derailment and there's a plume floating by a school and we're shelter in place and the toxin's in the air and someone comes to the door and what's in? And they want in the building. What's our policy? And so they've really made us think about some things like that we need to continue to enhance in our security and safety plans. And as you heard Mr. Miller start off talk about, it's always a top priority for us. And so we're still look at things as detailed as that all the way down. And so next couple policy first reads, you'll see some policies around those areas. Gladly pass this on.
He's been busy.
Yes. It's a lot.
Your policy people have been busy.
Enjoying that committee, Brad?
It was a fun meeting.
Good.
Now, I just appreciate the fact that as we look through the policies, that we not only look at the hard costs associated with those policies, but also looking at the soft costs as well. And so looking at the travel and mileage and looking at the stipend reimbursement, things like that, I think that's just smart. It makes you more efficient in your department and as a district.
Efficiency.
Efficiency, yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And people are still being accountable. I just wanted to say that too.
absolutely.
People are still being accountable.
Community Engagement Committee.
Oh, we just got an email today that we're starting our 7th year of community conversations, and there are 2 already scheduled. August 30th, high school staff, and September 12th, junior high school staffs. So we're back at it.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go,
All right.
Mr. Miller would say. That's
We'll
all I have.
skip Butler Tech and move to legislative.
Can I ask a quick question, though, back at the community
Certainly.
conversations? That's all right. How are those determined throughout the year? Is that a process where Randy works with the team to identify the different types of groups we want to talk with?
Yes.
Yes.
If there are folks that want to have a conversation, they can connect with us as well.
Yes.
And Randy's been the one setting that. There were a couple last year that we weren't, not that we didn't want to, but hadn't thought about our schedule that he added to the list.
Okay,
Just depends.
great.
Yep, and they can contact Kelly and I as the liaisons as well, and we can work with Randy to get that done as well.
Great.
If it's something we feel that, yeah, will be beneficial.
All right. Do you guys have anything on Butler Tech in Linda's absence?
I do not.
Okay.
We did just get an invitation that they're doing the ribbon cutting
Yes.
for the new facility where La Swordsville Lake Amusement Park used to be. So
Mhm.
it's on, I can look if you like.
That's okay.
That's happening.
Legislative?
The only thing were some of the House bills and things that Rob had just mentioned. That's all I had. And Bass just canceled the legislative meeting for next week. So I don't have anything.
I will be part of a group with OASBO that will be sitting down with both campaigns, gubernatorial campaigns, and those happen next week. I think one on Tuesday and then one on Friday. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations, to talk with, one of them's going to be our next governor about school funding in the state of Ohio. So I'm looking forward to that. Also with the recent legislative changes, the 5-year forecast is now going to be due at the end of November instead of the end of October. So we get an additional month for that. So that's a win.
Pushing back spring.
No, that one will still be May. But
Thank you.
saw it coming.
Sorry.
But the October one is moved to November. So,
Oh.
yeah.
Interesting.
That's good.
All right. And Diversity Committee?
I was hoping to schedule a meeting with you and Mr. Parnell. Maybe you and I can talk about a couple dates that will work for us, and hopefully that'll sync up with his calendar.
Absolutely. And I know that our teachers on special assignment or who work with that committee in each of our buildings will be doing training the beginning of September.
They do. There's a retreat that they're doing, I think the 5th.
I thought 6th and 7th, as I believe
probably
last
right.
I heard. So, yeah, so that'll be great that they're going to have that opportunity to work together and
Yep.
get the year kicked off right. So with that, we'll move to treasurer's recommendations. Do I have a motion for treasurer's recommendations A through C?
A motion.
Second?
Any discussion? We have approval of board meeting minutes, approval of a $50 club card fee for junior high schools, which this will be a change following similar to what we're doing in the high schools. Jenny, do you want to speak to that?
So I met with the junior high principals, and they wanted to have something similar to what the high school does with their club card. So what this will do is each junior high, there will be 6 different clubs that will be identical. The club card will go for these 6 clubs that are identical, and then each junior high gets to pick 2 that are unique to that school. Because one junior high might have an engineering club that's pretty popular in that school, but another school might have a different club that's very, very popular. So the $50 fee, you pay that and you get to belong to all 8 of those clubs. Whereas right now, each club has a different fee. Also, just like with any of our student fees, if you're on free and reduced lunch, the fee is waived. So as we look at educational equity and trying to make sure that there's opportunities for kids to participate. It's just one more way to do that. So this will be the first year for that.
All right. And then the third item is the approval of the three-year contract with Medical Mutual. So Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have superintendent's recommendations, A through E. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? We have
Pretty routine. Oh, sorry.
approval of personnel items, field trip for Woodland Elementary, and donations.
That's it.
All right. Any further discussion? Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Yes. With that, we move to the second opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to approach the mic at this time? Seeing no one, we'll move to closing comments. So, Brad?
I don't know if I have anything else to add. I went to the new staff orientation, and that was fun, the energy in the room. It's amazing when you see all 80 new staff members in one room, just the energy that that brings and the experience across all of the different subject areas, grade levels. It was really exciting to be there, so I appreciate the invite to be able to be a part of that. I'm really excited about tomorrow, being able to be part of the energy with the convocation with the staff. So I'm ready for the school year to get started.
Yeah, I echo Brad. The new hire thing was fun.
Good.
Except that they all looked, I don't know, 12. Maybe it's just me, which I probably think it is. But yeah, I'm excited for the school year to start. Should be fun.
Jenny?
Ditto. Here we go.
Here we
Here we go. We're ready. We're ready.
Just real quick, I want to mention that our state superintendent, Paula DiMaria, will be visiting Lakota on our opening day to see the buzz and visit some schools and visit with some students and teachers and staff members. So he'll be here 12:30 to 2:30 is the plan, and we'll greet him at central office. So if any of you want to meet there at 12:30, would not be a bad thing. It'd be probably a good thing. He'll have a couple people with him, and then we will add him to our itinerary of trying to get to all the buildings on that first day of school. So we're glad that he's here. Knowing him, the little bit that I do, if he doesn't think in his mind he's finished at 2:30, he'll stay. I've seen that before. So we're glad that he's here and excited to show him Lakota.
Exciting.
When you told us the numbers of up 328, I know when we did the demographic study last that they told us that our enrollment numbers would be declining each year. And since that time, our numbers have increased each year.
They've been flat.
They're flat, but they haven't done what was projected. So even staying flat and now going up 328 is, I think, a huge testament to what's happening in this district and the momentum that you're helping to create. I know you always give credit to the team, so
All
you
in
and the
this
team
together.
are helping to create. So I'd say kudos to the entire team and all that's happening and that great energy that's being felt in all the buildings, and to the staff for what they're creating in the buildings. So thank you to everyone for what's happening, and I think, again, that speaks to what everyone is seeing, that we're seeing an increase in the enrollment of 328. I think that's the end result of the great work that's happening throughout the district.
And to add there too, I don't know the exact number, but there was a large percentage of the new teachers in the district there that have chosen to come to Lakota from other districts, and I think that is a testament as well to talking about what it means to be both a destination district with families choosing to come to Lakota, but also professionals choosing to come to Lakota as well, which is a great path to be on, and the state superintendent wanting to come to Lakota on the first day.
Right.
So well done to your team.
Of the 80 new staff, about half of them were in their first 3 years of their teaching career, it was announced, and the other half had been in their teaching career for longer than 3 years. So again, that speaks to they're choosing to come here later in their career because this is where they want to be. So thank you to everyone who's contributed to that, and we look forward to kicking off a wonderful year, and here we go.
Here we go.
And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, no, I'm sorry. A motion to move into executive session for the purposes of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
I'll move.
Second?
Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Lovell,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes. And we'll take a brief adjournment, and no action will be taken when we come out of executive session. So, thank you.